Elizabeth of York's story is more than the prelude to Henry VIII's tyranny. Born a political pawn, she was betrothed multiple times before 20, and, if rumors are true, even eyed by her chilling uncle, Richard III. When her father died in 1483, her younger brother should have been king. Instead, Richard removed the boy to the Tower for his protection, cutting Elizabeth off from her family. Her mother and siblings fled to Westminster Abbey, hoping sanctuary would save them. Richard demanded custody of another son. The mother, under pressure, surrendered him and never saw him again. To strike back, Elizabeth's mother arranged a bold match. Elizabeth to Henry Tudor, an exiled claimant whose title was weak, but whose marriage to her could unite York and Lancaster. Henry landed in August 1485 and, 2 weeks later, defeated Richard at Bosworth. With Richard gone, Elizabeth's betrothal became a union that sealed a new dynasty. Marriage brought triumph and heartbreak. Elizabeth and Henry welcomed their first son, Arthur, months after the wedding, a joyous symbol of security. But of 7 pregnancies, only 4 children survived infancy: Arthur, Margaret, Henry, and Mary. Elizabeth clung to them, yet loss shadowed her life. Henry VII kept his distance at first, delaying her coronation for nearly 2 years and treating her more as consort than queen. Still, Elizabeth proved indispensable. Worldly, graceful, and fluent in court custom, she taught the introverted king how to rule and how to charm his new nobles. Gradually he softened, lavishing gifts, music, feasts, even a personal menagerie that included an imported lion. For a time she enjoyed the rewards of her trials: luxury, children, and influence at court. But those comforts were only a brief calm before the storms that would follow. Storms that would forever link her name to the rise and fall of the Tudor lineage. Margaret of York, Elizabeth's formidable aunt, was a woman of relentless ambition, political cunning, and unyielding survival instinct. She had endured years of exile strife and the ruthless tide of English politics, emerging sharper and more calculating than ever. For Margaret, the game of the court was a battlefield, and she played with precision, her mind always several moves ahead. Elizabeth of York, in contrast, embodied a quieter strength. Where Margaret wielded influence and intrigue, Elizabeth nurtured the bonds of family and home, finding in her children and domestic life a source of deep fulfillment. She was aware of the dangers lurking beyond the palace walls, of the rivalries that could spill into open conflict, yet she chose a path of gentler engagement, trusting her intuition and the stability of her household to shield those she loved. Life at the Tudor court was both dazzling and precarious. Elizabeth married Henry VII in 1486, uniting the warring houses of York and Lancaster and finally bringing a tentative peace to a kingdom scarred by decades of civil war. Yet even in the seeming calm, the past never fully relinquished its grip. Scandals, plots, and whispers of rebellion hovered like shadows over the royal family. Margaret handled these threats with relentless vigilance, negotiating marriages, alliances, and political maneuverings that would secure the nascent Tudor dynasty. Elizabeth, though less publicly ambitious, played her part in a subtler but no less crucial way. She nurtured the future of the monarchy through her children, imbuing them with grace, intelligence, and a sense of duty that would become their inheritance. In November 1501, a moment of joy finally arrived to mark their careful planning and hope for the future. Their eldest son, Arthur, now a young man poised to inherit the crown, married Catherine of Aragon, the daughter of Spain's powerful Ferdinand and Isabella. The union was celebrated with grandeur befitting a royal wedding, the halls of London alive with music, laughter, and the promise of a new era of alliances. Elizabeth watched her son with a mother's pride, knowing this marriage was more than personal. It was a linchpin of her family's political future. The young couple's departure for Arthur's household was bittersweet. Elizabeth kissed her son with the hope and expectation of a happy marriage, unaware that tragedy had already begun to stir in the shadows. Within months, an invisible hand of fate struck. Both Arthur and Catherine fell ill with a sudden, mysterious sickness that no physician could tame. Elizabeth's heart clenched as she received word, a mother's intuition sensing the fragility of life that even the finest upbringing could not protect. Catherine survived the illness, fragile but alive. Arthur did not. He withered away, his youth stolen in an April morning of 1502, leaving his parents and siblings stunned and heartbroken. Elizabeth's grief was a tempest, a crushing weight she bore with quiet dignity. Even Henry VII, typically a man of steely reserve, could not contain his anguish. He wept openly for the first time in public memory. A king undone by the death of son, he had so carefully prepared to succeed him. Elizabeth became his anchor, holding him steady even as she herself teetered on the edge of despair. Together, they faced the cruel reality that life demanded a forward march, even in the wake of devastation. Elizabeth's sense of duty soon pressed her into action. Determined to secure the Tudor succession, she conceived again within months of Arthur's death. The palace brimmed with whispered anxieties. England needed heirs, and the crown could not afford a pause. Seeking the safety of the Tower of London, a place both symbolic and protective, Elizabeth carried her child under the watchful eyes of attendants and guards. In early 1503, she gave birth to a daughter, Catherine, named perhaps with hope and reverence. Yet the joy of new life was tragically fleeting. The infant survived only a few days, claimed by an infection that ravaged Elizabeth's body as well. On February 11th, 1503, her 37th birthday, Elizabeth of York succumbed to the same cruel illness. The court, already accustomed to rigid decorum, reeled in grief. The mother who had been the heart of the family, the quiet yet unwavering center of the Tudor court, was gone. Her death left a profound vacuum. Young Henry, later known to history as Henry VIII, lost the mother he idolized, the woman whose presence had been a lodestar throughout his early years. Henry VII, stripped of his principal comfort and confidant, withdrew further into his cautious and calculating world. And Catherine of Aragon, the Spanish princess who had survived both illness and widowhood, remained in England as a foreigner, her life irrevocably altered by the tragedies of a household not her own. Fate would intertwine her destiny again with Elizabeth's surviving son, creating a bond that would shape the course of English history and courtly life for decades to come. Elizabeth's life, though brief, cast a long shadow. She bore witness to the turbulence of dynastic ambition, the heartbreak of personal loss, and the constant, unyielding pressure to secure the future of her family. Yet within her story lies more than sorrow. There is inspiration in her steadfastness, in her quiet courage amidst overwhelming odds. She demonstrated that power need not always roar from the throne. It can thrive in resilience, in nurturing, in the steady cultivation of love and loyalty that binds a family and a nation. Her influence on Henry VIII was profound. He grew up with the image of his mother as a paragon of virtue, beauty, and steadfastness. This idealization of Elizabeth shaped the expectations he carried into adulthood, particularly in his marriages. He sought, consciously or not, to replicate the grace and perfection he remembered in his mother, a pursuit that would later both inspire and torment him. Elizabeth's presence lingered in his consciousness, a benchmark of devotion and idealized femininity against which all others were measured. Elizabeth's legacy extends beyond the intimate confines of her family. She stands alone in history as the only woman whose father, brother, husband, and son all ascended the English throne. This remarkable distinction is not merely a footnote. It is a testament to the centrality of her role in the continuity of the Tudor dynasty. Her life intertwined with the political and personal currents of her era in ways both profound and subtle. While Margaret schemed and navigated the treacherous waters of power, Elizabeth's strength was expressed in the quieter, yet no less vital, act of sustaining her family and shaping the next generation of rulers. The story of Elizabeth of York is ultimately a story of human resilience. It is about facing loss and tragedy with dignity, about recognizing the responsibilities that life and history place upon an individual, and about finding ways to nurture hope even when grief seems insurmountable. Her life reminds us that influence is not always loud. Sometimes it is measured in the patience of mother, the guidance of devoted spouse, and the unspoken lessons that shape a child's heart. She endured pain. She bore the weight of dynastic ambition. And she did so with courage and grace, leaving behind an indelible mark on English history. Even centuries later, Elizabeth's story resonates because it is fundamentally human. It teaches us about the intersection of personal and political duty, about how love and loss can coexist with responsibility, and about how individuals, even those in positions of extraordinary privilege, must navigate the fragility of life. Her life invites reflection, admiration, and inspiration, reminding us that strength often manifests quietly through acts of care, courage, and devotion. In the end, Elizabeth of York was more than a queen or a mother. She was a linchpin of history, a figure whose personal resilience became inseparable from the fate of a nation. Her story is both a caution and a beacon, a tale of love, loss, and the relentless march of life that demands we rise, again and again, in the face of sorrow. Through her children, her influence, and the enduring memory of her character, Elizabeth's spirit continued to shape the Tudor world long after her passing, a silent testament to the power of perseverance, dignity, and maternal love in the grand sweep of history.